Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
Angry Down Deeper number 13, Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Silo Season 2, Episode 6. This episode was called Barricades. And boy, did it involve barricades. Lots and lots of barricades. Tom, we're on Episode 6 of a 10-episode season. We're running up and downstairs. We're running down and upstairs. What did you think of Episode 6 of Silo?
I thought it was fine. I feel like we've kind of really slowed things down a bit, and I know all of our main characters are here, so there's a lot to kind of go through, but I feel like every time we kind of get some sort of interesting new mystery or twist, like it gets solved kind of right away. We're not letting some of these things kind of cook, maybe outside of the what's the guy's fun name? Diego Maradona, whatever they're trying to find on the
Oh, Salvador Quinn.
Salvador Quinn. Yeah, like that's kind of like the lingering mystery. Everything else is just keeps constantly ratcheting up and gearing up to this revolt, I guess that's going to eventually happen, but I almost thought we were going to get absolutely no Silo 17, but we got that like last little hit at the end. So to me, it's just slowing down a little bit. I still think there's some kind of wonky writing here or there. Still a fun show, but I feel like overall this season has not been quite nearly as fun as season one has. What's your take?
Yeah, well, season 1, you're building the world. Season 2, we're in the world. The big, reveal was the other silo. But to your point, contractually, they had to show Rebecca Ferguson for, I don't know, 30 seconds, and she had to say a certain amount of lines in order to collect that paycheck. So they brought her in at the end. I don't like when shows do the thing where the last episode we get this Kennedy speech where he's like, I'm going to reveal it all, and what I'm going to tell you is going to change everything. This feels very much, and Lost was super successful at doing this, but Lost a lot of times was like, hey, big end of the episode reveal, and oh, by the way, next episode we're going to tell you everything. And then it's like, well, we went on for 6 seasons, so we didn't tell you everything when we promised we were going to tell you everything. And they did that same thing here. It was like, Kennedy was like, you're going to wish I didn't tell you what I'm about to tell you. And then he tells him something that's super vague. And he even at the end is like, I bet you wish I didn't tell you that. And I was like, wait, what? Are you a 5-year-old? This is weird. I've got
I kind of forgot that he was in that same room when Juliet like saw the video or whatever, right? Like, or she was reading the note. Like, he was in the room and saw that, or did he just get hearsay from his buddy? He had to
No,
have
I
seen
think
it.
him and Danny were at the terminal when Danny was uploading everything. So,
Yeah.
but so he just saw video of the sky. That's what he can't. That's
He
what
doesn't make
can't
a
reveal?
call. Yeah, he doesn't say that the screen is a lie, and then it's kind of like, okay, what screen is a lie? Is what they think they're seeing on the monitors in the cafeteria a lie? Like, he clearly hasn't put together that the screen of the person that goes out and cleans is the lie. The only character we know that's seen it, and he kind of makes a mention, we're really getting into it here, but he makes a mention about they probably rounded up everybody that saw it, put on the screen for that 10 seconds, but there is a character we know saw it, and that is still around, which is that one person that was kind of in the former sheriff's department.
I don't know. What I like
But we'll
about
get
this
there.
is, we'll touch on it. Remind me to touch on it when we get to. Let's put a pin in it for when we get into
Okay.
the room with all the TV screens.
Please.
As I started this episode, I was like, okay, where'd we leave at the last episode? Okay, Kennedy was shouting nonsense about going to reveal it all. And then I just felt like it was a letdown in this episode where he doesn't really tell Billings anything. And so, but let's start this one. Let's start with, as all these episodes have started, with some rabble, rabble, rousing.
Yeah, let them through. Let them through. It's a great chant.
Which, this is pertinent because it's the holiday season, and I'm pretty sure Amazon people are unionizing and going on strike. So, much like in the silo, in the real world, there will be no deliveries. So
This is their Black Friday.
this is their Black Friday. No, this is like the 2 to 3 days after Black Friday when nothing's getting delivered. But they really need those socks that are going to Gam Gam to make it through. We have Knox, Shirley, and Walker hanging out because Knox had this superficial wound. Like, when they show it in the recap, I was like, oh, maybe that wound's like he's going to succumb to it, or it's going to be... Nope.
You know why he got that wound.
Well,
He
I
got
don't.
that wound so he could take his shirt off and show us that dope body he's been working on in
That's
the
what
off
my
season.
spouse said, and I said, "Oh, I didn't even notice he was shirtless. I don't see those things." Anyways,
He looked great. He
so
looked great. Good for him.
so jealous. He looks incredible. All right, it's just a scratch. I mean, this is such a trope, the like wounded soldier patching him up, falling
Yeah.
in love thing. They make fun of it
Yeah.
in Community, and I was just like, oh, okay, so Knox and Shirley, they're going to become a thing, which
Yeah.
we've seen hints at it throughout the season. It's fine. They're not Jim and Pam show. Like, I don't need you to make this a thing. I
Well, I made
hope
the-
they're happy. I like it, but it's not like a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I had a note later on when they actually do like finally kiss. I'm like, do we need this? Like, this isn't in the books, so they're adding this in. Like, they were never romantic there. I just don't. I don't think like every
Well,
TV show
you've
has to make
always been
characters fall in love.
You've always been staunchly anti-love. Like, you
Yes.
have always hated romance.
Of course,
Or
Love Stinks, my favorite song.
Love stinks. Sure. What is love is actually your favorite song because you truly
Baby, Don't
know
Hurt Me.
what is love. All right. So this leads to the reveal of the weapons being made. So the gentleman in the chair that moves returns, and they're like, "Hey, we've got this giant table. It's got a bunch of lumpy stuff under a blanket. No one's ever walked in and be like, hey." What's under that blanket?
The
on
reveal
that
is so
giant
good.
table dominating this room, and they're like, don't worry about it. It's a diorama. We play with GI Joes on top of it. This is
That's what I
terrain.
thought it would be. I thought it'd be like a Back to the Future style thing where like Doc Brown makes like the replica of the town and he like apologizes for how crude the model is when it's like brilliant and perfect.
Yeah.
I thought they'd have a little model of the silo. That would have been fun.
Nope. It's just a bunch of swords and knives. I was trying to. I didn't see any guns. Right?
Yeah, I didn't make guns. It's just essentially a bunch of old medieval weapons, which were fun.
How hard is
And
it to
armor
make,
too.
How hard is it to make a club? You just kind of find
Mm-hmm.
you find a fence, you break it into parts, and everyone's got a club. Like,
I just did a white elephant gift exchange with some of my work colleagues, and one of the guys gave somebody else a 2-pound candy cane. That essentially is like a club. So
that's a murder weapon, and they're gonna be like, we couldn't find the murder weapon, but that guy's diabetes and he's covered in sticky stuff. We think he might have done it. All right, so
such a good crime.
such untraceable. We couldn't find the murder weapon. He reeks of peppermint. Speaking of reeking of peppermint. Can't they just say the food's poisoned? We've got to have like blue stuff. They had to kill a rat, and they didn't do that thing at the end of the show where they were like, no rats were harmed. So they really killed that rat for the show. I want everyone to know. Tell your children.
Peter's gonna be mad.
Well, Peter can.
It seemed weird. Like it was so prominently done. Like they could just say like the crops are withering and just show like withered crops or rotten stuff. Like to clearly show this blue poison. Like it's got to come back later, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to nitpick this show to death, but this was all to reveal Knox saying there's someone down here working for them. So it's like, okay, got it. So now we know that even in the down deep, there are traitors. So now everyone's trying to figure out who the traitor is. Although that is dropped pretty quickly in this episode, but I'm assuming it'll come back later. They'll show us in a recap where Knox looks at the camera and goes, someone's been poisoning our food. And then we'll remember that someone's a traitor in the down.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Oh, that's what I was. Okay. Something in my brain did that voice, and I did not know where it was. But you nailed it. It's Woody.
Yep, you pulled
Woody
the string.
Harrelson from True Detective Season 1 when he turns to Matthew McConaughey and he goes, nothing's real, and somebody poisoned the water hole. And Matthew McConaughey uses the term prost, and you've got to be like, wait, what's prost mean? And I'll let people figure that out on their own. We have Bernard. This is after the food's been poisoned reveal. Bernard's like, there's a well-known fact in all of the books that have always been written everywhere about societies. And he's like, it takes 9 missed meals for a functioning society to go into chaos.
My wife immediately says, it would take me 2.
Anarchy would ensue in your house if 2 meals were missed. That's
Correct.
Incredible. There's so
It
much
sounded
comedy
poetic.
in moments
Yeah.
like this where you're like, someone in the background's just got to be like, hey, I think I could go 10. And like, I don't know. Like,
They up the ante. Oh man, I got a couple hot takes on some of the numbers that Lucas does a little bit later about trying to sell this code and Bernard's responses. So I'm excited to get to those.
wonderful. You were Caesaring it yourself. That's good.
Yes.
I prefer my Caesars not in codes, but in salads.
Yeah,
So
nailed it.
non-poison salads, non-blue
I prefer
rat
my
poison
Caesars
salads.
stabbed a bunch.
Nice. Good. I like it with a fork. Yeah, because you hate eating salad with a spoon. I know what you're
Correct.
getting at.
Yeah.
All right. Billings, Hank, Patrick Kennedy, they're all hanging out, and they've got to get this bullet out. And they're like, we need a real doctor. And this guy's like, I've got a white lab coat. And they're like, are you even a real doctor? And they're like, give me drugs. And he's like, only real doctors have drugs. And they all put their finger on their nose, and they're like, gotcha.
I really thought they were just going to give him booze, right? This is like the classic thing you do in the situation where you just take the bottle of booze, you pour it on the wound, and you give the guy some, and then boom, you pull the bullet out. But
And
he
then
just offers aspirin.
And then the doctor, who's nervous, also takes a swig, and everyone like
Exactly.
chuckles. Yeah, no, it's been done. Instead, this guy crushes aspirin into a yogurt, and he's like, "Oh, it's faster for your migraines. Good luck, sir."
Classic.
Do you think Kennedy took the aspirin, or do you think he was too much of a man to take the aspirin? Because we don't watch it.
You should. He should have taken the aspirin.
Sure.
You
He
don't
should
turn that
take
stuff
Bayer so that he doesn't get heart attacks. That's the only thing I
smart.
know about aspirin is that Bayer makes some, and if you take it regularly, it helps with heart attacks, which is what the advertisement told me when I was a child. So
Yeah. I'm never going to
stuck
get a heart
with me.
attack, so I don't have to worry about it.
that's true. That's true.
I
You
just
don't
will
believe
it
in
away.
love.
Exactly. My heart cannot break.
Your heart cannot break or have a heart attack because you don't believe in love. Anyways,
That's how it works.
Hanks and Billings are discussing like going after Mechanical. I don't understand. I don't know if Hanks is our bad guy in the Down Down Deep. I'm a little
Hank,
bit.
just Hank.
What am I saying?
You're saying Hanks. You got the Tom Hanks poison the water hole in your mind.
Sure. Okay. Tom Hanks, living treasure. We all love him. Not talking about him. I'm talking about Deputy Hank, otherwise
Who'd
known
you say
as
he looked like, by the way?
Hosier.
Hosier? My wife said that he's going to be on SNL this week, so for those listeners listening to the pod right away,
Hank?
watch him on SNL.
The
Yeah.
actor from Silo? They were like,
not
hey,
Hank.
we're going to take the 15th billed guy in this TV show and let him host SNL. He vaguely
really
looks
good in
like
the
a
comedy.
singer that had one hit. I don't know.
No, it's the singer. The singer's going to be on SNL.
All right, great. I'm glad to see he's getting some more work. Certainly pertinent. His album is... anyways, I don't know anything about Hosier. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I think he's Canadian. Who knows? All right.
Yeah.
There's a conversation here where Hank's like, hey, we should go after those guys. And Hank's like, I swore an oath. And Billings is like, well, like, I want to follow the law too. I didn't understand I don't understand Hank's motivation.
I'm not sure. Like, Hank is just there to, I think, have back and forth with Billings because we're not really focusing on Hank. It's all about what is going on in Paul's mind and the decisions that he's going to make. Because, like, during this whole scene, I appreciate that Billings is kind of just on the computer or essentially AOL instant messaging his wife. They get to have this nice little back and forth conversation. I thought that was lovely.
I didn't know who he was messaging until later.
Yeah.
I was unaware of what their AOL user names would be. Tom, I'll give you this moment to collect yourself because I'm about to ask you what your AOL Instant Messenger username was. And
I believe mine was Snoogans 1031.
Snoogans?
Yeah, I was really big into Jay and Silent Bob, so Snoogans was the thing Jay always said.
Yeah, I've never been more disappointed in my life.
And you? What was yours?
I
Kid Lover?
had it very briefly and used it very sparingly because I had no one to talk to. But I think mine was Light Hurts My Eyes. All one word. Anyways,
Incredible.
those were, man, when we had those 10,000 hours on that disc, the internet was great. Now
Love
the
it.
internet's garbage. All right. Shirley and Knox hold a meeting where they're like, listen, we know you guys heard that we're murderers. And the crowd was like, this is the first time we're hearing of it. Are you murderers? And they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You said murderers. No, we are not murderers. We were framed by Sims and Bernard. And then someone's like, ultimately it was like, hey, they're going to cut off our food. I'll eat my kids to stay alive. Of course I would. I love eating children. I think that's what that parent said. I don't know. They were all shouting and rabble-rousing. This all leads to Walker, who's doing a lot of walking, a lot of standing, and a lot of speaking. So who knows what her name's going to change to. But she's like, it's her rousing speech moment. And I had questions, Tom.
Yeah, I just appreciate that everybody, was it Knox, Shirley, Walker, they all stand on tables so everybody can hear them. I appreciate that.
Sure, where the food goes, where we all eat. Yes, we're all standing on it with our dirty, greasy boots. And the camera should have panned, and the dude with the apron that has to wipe down the tables with his towel is just rolling his eyes. He's like, get off I just wiped it down. Come on. Your boots are disgusting.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyways, the food wasn't poisoned. It's just everyone's getting sick because they're all standing on the tables where they eat.
That'd be great.
All right. She gives this speech where she's like, you losers, you all just want to work so that you can get fed. And I was like, wait, isn't that what having a job is? Like you work and then you can buy food?
Essentially.
Like, what else is there supposed to be? You're in a silo? Like, there's not a lot of, I don't know, games going on. There's not a lot of leisurely lives being lived. I did not understand. It was essentially like, hey, down here in Mechanical, we all pull together and we share. And I was like, oh, no, they're all communists.
There it is.
And so Tom, obviously would not be a down deeper. I would be at the tippy top, living my leisurely life, playing lots of games and taking the food from. Her speech did not work for me. I enjoy this actress. I just felt like her reasoning of, what, you guys just want to do your job so you can have food? It's like, wait, yes, I do want to. Let's do that. Like, that option sounds good.
It kind of made sense. And then when they do eventually reel in the food, and then Knox picks up like a potato and a carrot and holds it up triumphantly. I thought they were going to do an episode of Iron Chef, and like carrots were the secret ingredient.
Incredible. Just incredible. I would have been the guy in the back going, send it back. I don't like carrots or potatoes. They got any meat?
They've been through the chute? Oh, I don't want those.
Yeah, exactly. I'll eat food off the table everyone stands on, but I won't eat food that's been sent through the trash chute. I draw the line there, good sir. Anyways, so I want to point out the levels come into play in this episode, and I didn't quite follow it, but just to establish it. So barricades at 130, and then you would continue up to 120, or is
correct? Because one is the top, so yeah, the bigger the numbers, the farther down you go. So essentially, flip a building upside down. So they mentioned that they got this food from 122, and I didn't really put it together until later on. But
that's where the farm is at.
Yeah,
Got it. That's where they're growing all those carrots and potatoes.
Yep.
Where all their fruits and vegetables taste like dead people, because that's how they fertilize.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Billing's wife goes and meets Doc Daddy, and she was the one. Doc Daddy's AOL username is 100% Doc Daddy.
Yes.
Doc Daddy, and then some sort of numbers that indicate something that is slightly, I don't know, erotic that we can't
96.
talk about. Because there we go, good one. Because we're a podcast for children. She's like, hey, we need a doctor. And he's like, he looks around, he's like, oh, I'm a doctor. And she's like, we need it down below. And he's like, Well, I'm pretty sure there are ways to order Doc Daddies like myself. You got to get on the Doc Daddy website. And she's like, we need it on the down low. And I don't know. All I kept thinking about was ordering Hot Cops in Arrested Development. I mean, look how hot they are. They're going to wait till the last possible moment before they strip Michael. Anyways.
I love when we're doing pods and you can tell what other show you're watching based on the pod that we're currently doing just because of all your quotes from it, since you're probably actively watching Arrested.
Dom, you could go back to the first Ted Lasso podcast and I guarantee there's an Arrested Development quote in there. So I've been watching it for roughly 5 years or however long we've been doing this. Anyways, all right.
I do appreciate, though, that Kathleen at some point says, like, oh, yeah, I finally got the baby asleep, so I'm doing good. Yet she continues to, like, march down these stairs and then through the crowd a little bit later on. This baby's not staying asleep.
Oh, you don't think this is conducive to a baby being able to rest long term? Her constantly, like, treating patients and running up and down stairs and handing it off to Billings. I mean,
find a sitter.
Exactly. He's the sheriff. Like he's got some of that sweet non-communist cash on the side that he could spend on a babysitter. Anyways, Bernard is informed of the food that's been transferred from the trash slot, and he's standing in the room with all of the TVs. And these TVs are roughly monitored by 10 people. I didn't count. I always come to this whenever we get into conspiracy theories. No one can keep a secret in this world. No one can keep a secret in the silo world. Everyone wants to be important. So as soon as you know something that other people don't know, you're going to drink too much at some point and let it slip. You're going to tell someone you're dating or married to, and they're going to tell someone else. There are so many people in the secret TV monitoring room that I'm just like, there's no way people don't know there's cameras everywhere and that, like, all of this is happening. I like it when it's Bernard is the only one that has access, or maybe Sims is the only one. But once we get into and we're seeing it with this Diego guy that we're going to get into later. Yeah. His name's Diego, and I almost just said we're going to get into Lego.
Proud of you. But I'm with you. Yeah, the more people you get into a conspiracy, the more likely it's going to go out. And there's, conservatively, maybe 6 people, probably more, that are in this room monitoring TVs. So it's just, I think, kind of like a showism. They're just kind of saying they need more people to be monitoring so they can tell Bernard where he can still be walking around in the silo doing stuff, yet know everything kind of essentially going on. So
Right. All right. We have Billings, Hank, and Walker. Oh, they briefly just talked to her. And she's like, I'm not telling you anything until you let me know where Carla McLean is. And I was like, who's Carla McLean? And it's the lady that was her lover and works in supply. And is she dead, Tom? What do you think? What are the odds on Carla McLean still being amongst the living?
I'm assuming she's still alive because I feel like to kill a character like that off screen just doesn't make sense. I feel like they would make it more dramatic because she has an emotional tie to one of our main characters. And I think, does Billings say as much a little bit later? I don't know if he's telling the truth or just kind of fibbing, but is she essentially in like isolation or in that medical bay and they're maybe wiping her memory? I don't know.
Sure. Yes. I think she is where the people go that get all the good drugs that get to see Georgia on the wall of their bedroom. So
they get adult aspirin, not baby aspirin.
That's a good point. That's the good stuff, they say. All right. Doc Daddy's at the barricade. He's like, listen, I've got to go down. There's a medical thing. I'm a doctor. This man behind the barricade, I'll argue, is just doing his job. Is like, hey, you can't go down there. You don't have a pass. And then Billings' wife is like, you know what a C-section is? And this is a TV thing where the male guard is really confused by, like, I don't know, things that have to deal with pregnancy. And so he's immediately thrown off guard. And he's like, all right, you guys can go down. Just stop talking to me about, I don't know, all this confusing, I don't know. That's not a Volvo, you know? So
I like how Kathleen was essentially quoting the pact, and I think she was just essentially making up things. She was like, back 4, subsection 13. And I
Not
think it even
very
goes to Doc
believable.
Daddy. Yeah, he's got to roll in his eyes.
I've read the pack front to back, and I did not believe a word she said. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But it was a nice device to get them down the stairs. So many stairs. Speaking of trying to get downstairs, Lucas is trying to break this code, and he's doing it a letter at a time. Tom is a gentleman who loves Wordle and loves a good puzzle. The floor is yours. Talk to us about the code-breaking skills of one Lucas A. Lucasen.
Yeah, I love it. It very much reminded me of The After Party, another show we've done from Apple TV, which is a lot of fun, where in each episode they have like these kind of cryptic clues that you can kind of do this like off-screen experience. So he mentions the seizure shift that Bernard talks about of like moving letters around. I wouldn't be surprised if that maybe was an After Party type clue at some point. But I just found it so comical that like I love Lucas. I love the actor. I love the character. I love him in the books. But like his dialogue here, he's like, all right, I tried to change one letter and it kind of worked, but then it didn't. So I changed 2 letters and then I changed 3 letters. And then I felt like he was going to go all the way up to like 20 about how many letters he changed. It was a bit kind of silly the way they were talking through this code breaking.
No, I agree. And then there's this moment where Bernard's like, hey, you're doing a good job. By the way, what you're doing is called a Caesar shift. And I was like, all right, that's great. Now he knows the term and he still doesn't know how to break the code. It felt like Bernard just being like, I know stuff, and so I'm going to mention this to you.
Yeah. I know you don't know what this means, nor does anybody else, but I've read a book.
Yeah, right. Just really lording it over him.
That's what you usually do to me.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's what you usually do to me, since you read more than I do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as those of us that are superior should. Speaking of people that are superior, I feel like Tim Robbins is just going ham in this show. Like, there's times, like, even the way this ends, he's just like, I'm going to do all of the acting an actor could possibly act in an acting show. He's just like all about it. He gets to be menacing. He gets to be conniving. He gets to be sad. He gets to be in love. I don't know. I love Tim Robbins and what he's doing here.
Agreed.
All right. Bernard, speaking of menacing. And here's the other thing. I don't really know a lot of times what Bernard's after.
Yeah.
And that's based on just how all over the spectrum we are in terms of his like emotional. So like he's questioning Camille here. And he's like, so tell me why you helped those like murderers. And then he's like, what would your husband think if he knew that? I guess he's trying to drive a wedge between them. I did not understand.
Well, this just kind of goes back to my comment at the beginning of the episode where, okay, Bernard has this secret that he kind of found out. Camille was going behind. I guess Bernard's back at the time. He didn't know there was, I guess, a disconnect between him and Sims. And then he finds it out immediately. And then now the very next episode, he immediately confronts her with that. Like, why confront her with it? And to your point, unless he's trying to drive a wedge. But then he tells her about what did your husband think? Like, again, I just didn't like, I want some of these things to sit for a little bit and let a character connive and come around to do something kind of unique with the information they've secretly been given. But it's just all kind of like, okay, you found it out last episode, I'm going to immediately confront you with it the next episode. I even think like later on, Diego kind of does that with like, oh, he learns about something on screen and then immediately tells kind of Sims for it.
Right. This is very reminiscent of one Darby Hart
Yes.
at A Murder at the End of the World, which we potted on, the Hulu show, where every time she found out a deep, dark secret, rather than using it, she just went and told the person so that they could either confirm or deny it or use it to their own advantage. So,
Listen, it worked out well for her in the end, right?
yes, it did, other than almost being murdered by that motorcycle helmet, which is just a terrible way to go.
Go watch that show. It was fun.
That show was fun, and in fact, it was great to see Emma Corrin, Darby Hart, show up in the Wolverine and Deadpool movie.
She was great in that too.
She, speaking of hamming it up and just chewing up all of the scenery, she went ham. John Hamm. All right, so we're at the barricade with Mechanical. They've brought knives to what is essentially going to become a gunfight. Knox looks super cool. He's in like he like points at his chest and he's like, this horse is Sarkeesio and this horse is Sarkeesian. They had a drinking problem at USC or something like that. He now
This is your
coaches
Gladiator
in a
reference.
Yeah, this
for those
is a
that haven't
Gladiator
recently
reference,
seen it.
but
Yeah,
also
yeah.
an NCAA reference about Sarkeesian. Anyways, I'm afraid that both sides need guns for a battle to really work out. But that's not the case later on when we get the old standoff on the landing. But let's not jump ahead. Let's stick with the guns theme, Tom, and talk about how Doc Daddy is removing that bullet. And the only thing that was missing here is when he dropped it, he didn't drop it into like a tin cup, so it makes that fun noise whenever they pull a bullet from someone.
I feel like it did. I think the scene ended with him dropping it in. It was like a tin. Yeah, you missed it, buddy. And it felt like it was like magnetized too. It didn't bounce. It was great.
Interesting. Magnetized bullets. I wonder if that's an idea that can make people money. When the robots come, we all have magnetized bullets. All right. And we cut kind of back and forth here, but this is when, and let's just talk kind of the Billings and Kennedy of it all, because this is when the bullet's removed. Billings is like, all right, hey, I did right by you in terms of I got a doctor, you're going to live, you need to tell us some stuff. And then Kennedy, he dodges the question, and then Billings sends everyone away. And, I mean, we kind of touched on it already, but did you feel like we fell short of any mystery being revealed by Kennedy after it being kind of the big, the big reveal that was supposed to come this episode?
I mean, again, I guess we're just getting the concept of the screen being a lie or like the outside being a lie, which he didn't. I mean, Billings probably knows it to a point where he knows like, hey, there's books, there's stuff that they're hiding, but he did not know that maybe the current world is all green and beautiful out there.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong. During this conversation, Kennedy doesn't say anything about that. All he says is, I saw something too beautiful to describe. He says, Danny downloading something on the computers for like 10 seconds when it went dark. I saw something that was too beautiful to describe. It was like better than what was on that page of the book you have. And like, that's all he shares.
No, you're right. I think it's like from an audience perspective, we know what he means by that, but I agree. Like he needs to explicitly tell this to Billings for it to be more impactful.
I'll say this. I think they fall short here because as an audience member, I don't know what Kennedy saw. And so when he's saying, I saw something too beautiful to describe, I don't know if he's talking about like the vision in the visor. I don't understand if he saw a different video that showed like the outside world. I don't know. I did not feel like they did a great job here in terms of this reveal, especially since it was how they ended the last episode. So
yeah, I agree. Like I think they should. My assumption is they saw like the 10-second clip. I think they tried to put on all the screens was what we saw a bunch in season 1, where it's like the birds flying in a V in the sky and the trees, everything's green and beautiful in the spring or something like that. So he should have explicitly said that just to help the audience out, because we don't know if he did see anything else other than that.
Right.
So, I'm with you. Oh, but we did learn that Billings does hate chairs. Just
Hates
as much
them.
as Sims hates paper, Billings hates chairs.
Hates chair. I mean, he slams that chair. I thought he was going to slam it down on top of Kennedy, and I was all for it. But he did not. All right, while this is going on, we have Diego, who works in the screen room, informing Sims, who's no longer in charge of Judicial, that Mechanical is like, they've got a plan. They've got a concrete saw. They've got some guys at the barricade, but the others are headed somewhere else. This all leads to them, I guess, digging a hole to get into supply, to get to a different level. But this is also showing that when cameras are out, these guys that are in the monitoring rooms have listeners.
I don't know, because I think what they do here is they show, and I love this like message that he gets from his Aunt Doreen, who signs it Aunt Doreen, which I thought is funny, because every time I message my aunt or my nieces, I always sign it Uncle Tom.
Sure.
But it talked about like arm greasers and the guys going up there with a concrete saw. So I don't think he doesn't get this from any monitors. He's getting this from just a message from his aunt, which is why I think he tried to tell Bernard, but Bernard didn't want to hear it. Or not Bernard, it was the other, the new Sims. He was trying to tell him, and he kind of told him to be quiet. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know, is he considered a mole because he's going behind Armidson's back? Or does he still think Sims is in like the power position? He wants him to know. I didn't know what to take of Diego, because he definitely clocked Bernard when he was talking about like starving the people in the Down Deep, and he seemed a bit against that, which I think you probably would be and should be.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're supposed to doubt Armidson's ability. And then in terms of who's a mole, Tom, the mole people are the people that dig in the ground. So it's clearly mechanical are the moles, because they're coming out.
We don't know.
Through the floor, or the people in the mines that don't exist, because Lucas went there for a day, came back, and at the end of this, he becomes the Shadow. What is going on with Lucas? All right, Sims bursts into Bernard's office. He knocked first, and he finds Lucas. I thought he was going to murder Lucas. Common was so mad in this scene. Common was upset someone went and got him from his trailer, and they were like, "Sir, you're supposed to act today." And he's like, "I don't want to." And they're like, "But you have to." And then he just burst into the scene and started yelling at Lucas.
You know
I feared
what Common
for
needs?
Lucas's life.
You know what Common needs? He needs a Snickers bar.
Yeah, because he gets hungry, or he gets something when he's hungry.
Yeah.
He gets hungry when he's hungry, I believe is the slogan for Snickers. We've got the nuts. It's like, hungry, we've got the nuts, I believe is the Snickers slogan. All right, so Sims and Camille, I'm confused as what Camille is doing, and what is the ultimate goal of Sims and Camille? Are they trying to let Bernard fail so that they are in charge? Is that what's happening ultimately?
I mean, that's the sentiment that Camille has, and then Sims ends this conversation like, "Oh, I guess I can't do anything, but you were a enforcer or whatever, a raider." So it's like,
LA
okay,
Raider,
I guess
a Los Angeles Raider.
She gets to go down. I'm kind of with you. Some of the stuff they're doing with Sims, and the character of Camille, I don't think was in the books, is quite a bit different, and I'm really trying to figure out what the angle is here, what they're trying to kind of potentially get to, and I'm not sure. I'm struggling to follow their logic, their reasoning, and what they're trying to accomplish.
For a show that has simply one staircase, I guess it has two staircases, they are weaving some webs that are confusing. This should all be pretty straightforward. Either you're good and you live at the top of the silo, or you're bad, you live at the bottom. It's that simple, show. Just write it as it is.
Yep.
All right, so we have Bernard in what looks to be a morgue with Judge Meadows' body. And
I mean, she should be in the dirt by now, right? Shouldn't she be fertilizing some trees?
She should be an apple tree, 100%. I don't know if you clocked it, Tom, but our boy Vince Vaughn and Rosa were in the background of this morgue having a conversation.
Nice, good Bad Monkey reference.
Yeah, there you go, Bad Monkey. All right. He's real sad. He's holding her hand. Rigor mortis is come and gone because that arm is flexible and that hand is, I don't know, succulent, we'll say. I believe that's the term.
A cactus on it?
It's moist, tender, I guess.
It was a tender moment. Yeah, okay.
And he's like upset because he feels like after 140 years this is all coming crashing down and it's his fault. And once again, Tim Robbins is like, everyone clear out. I would like to act alone with this person's arm.
Yeah, I guess sad because he had to bring her into the equation. And I mean, I guess because I don't know if they needed this, but they went back to this. Like, were they in love? Were they married? I mean, they couldn't have been married, right? Because like everything would have then had to been documented or whatever. But I feel like it seems more than a friendship as much as he's kind of going back to her and gently holding her hand or whatever. I don't know. What's your take?
I think this is just supposed to show us that despite the fact that Bernard thinks he's got everything under control, he is conflicted. And also, it's okay to murder someone if, once they're dead and on that cold slab, you show some sort of remorse and you complain about them not being around anymore.
It's written in the pact.
It's written in the pact. You're allowed to poison someone with mushrooms as long as afterwards you're real sad about it, and you regret losing your only friend and your
Not
Tim
rat poison,
Robbins.
though. Not rat poison. It's got to be mushrooms.
It's got to be mushrooms. Sautéed in butter with a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of garlic. Mechanical molds themselves into supply. They do
supply. Do we know what level supply is? I thought supply was higher. I think they just essentially get higher than 122 where the farm is.
I don't know. They showed us a door. It said supply on it, so I wrote it down. I was like, "Oh, that's going to be important."
You're probably right.
So later, when he's like, "Who knows what's on floor 122 without looking?" I was like, "Oh, supply is."
I wrote it in the outline.
I said, yeah, I wrote it in the outline. I said it out loud, and then some guy's like, "It's a farm," and I was like, "Oh, dang it!" And I missed the question on that quiz. Anyways, long story short, we do some flanking. The only thing I want to point out here is they are standing on landings across from each other. And Armistead is talking to Camille, and they're like, "Oh, they're trying to get around us. They're in such a..." And then at that moment, they all decide to look across the landings at each other. And like they just discover Mechanical is across from them.
Yeah.
I thought it was comical. But then
it wasn't very sneaky.
No.
It wasn't very sneaky. And then once they eventually just decide to ambush and run at them, you can see in the background the dude that had like the concrete saw is running with the concrete saw. I'm like, that's a bold play. That's probably heavy. And you trip with that, that's not going to go well.
Exhausting. Yeah, you're going to cut a hole in the floor and go right down to the next landing. And then some kid's going to fall into it. Anyways.
I do appreciate, we should also mention that they use the winch to be able to pull down the barricade. And again, very nice from the guy up top to just drop the winch down for them to immediately use the next episode in their benefit.
Huge fan of winches. Always have been a huge fan of winches. Love winches. They run into a winch and concrete saw versus gunfight. And honestly, Judicial should have just mowed them all down. I felt like Arminson was a little bit weak here. But Knox, he's like, "Hey, I don't know if you saw me shirtless earlier, but I'm definitely going to beat one of you to death. I'm 9 feet tall and a Norse god. So please shoot me and I will murder all of you."
Right. He makes a line about... What does he say? He says, "What, you can kill 10, but then we'll kill the rest of you and still have the stairs." And like, I mean, there's a lot of guns. I feel like they're maybe killing more than 10. They don't have a single shot. These aren't muskets.
Yeah.
So
let's say roughly there's 8 rounds in each one of those pistols. I think they're killing more than 10.
Yeah.
But Judicial, not mathematicians. They're not accounting, Tom. They're Judicial.
True.
So, and they're in hockey pads, and they're getting too old for this poop. So,
fair.
I love the next scene where Arminson comes in. He's like, "Listen, we only gave him 10 floors. No big deal. You know, the barricade's at 120. This is then Bernard very disappointed in Arminson and revealing that despite the fact that they were trying to starve them out, they now have a farm. And I just wrote in the outline, "We bought a zoo," because something about him being like, "Now they have a farm." I was like, oh, that one moment of courage where you go and buy a zoo. Thanks, Matt Damon.
Oh, can't wait for his cameo.
Yeah, I'm excited
He's
to
just
see
a
him
farmer.
as well. Tom and I are going to be potting on We Bought a Zoo. We're going to be breaking it down into a 10 podcast series where we go through that movie line by line. So join us this coming year. All right. Billings visits Walker. He talks about Carla being taken into seclusion. I don't know ultimately what they're going to... Walker feels like a character that they are setting up for a bad end. Like we care about Walker. And I don't know if this show has the guts to kill characters that we really... I always thought Shirley was going to die during this run up the stairs. Instead, she didn't fall down from gunshot. She fell down from falling in love with Knox.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I don't, clearly I've read the book, so I'm not going to reveal much.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I do
that's
think,
right. You're the worst. All
they're
right.
setting up these characters for, I mean, if you're going to have a rebellion, not everybody's going to live here, right? So it's potentially
What?
who's going to go.
All of them, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are falling first are the ones that are falling in love. Knox and Shirley.
Yeah, again, didn't love it, didn't need it. It's fine, but I don't need every single show to have coworkers fall in love.
Sure. You don't think there should be any love between coworkers.
Nope.
I agree. We all signed that HR document. No falling in love, no running with concrete saws. I know that I signed that one at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And no jumping off balconies connected to winches with metal cables that will tear your body in half from the force of falling that far. Thank you, HR. All right. Billings does ruin this moment. I just want to point that out.
He does.
But I love Billings. I love him to death. I hope they don't kill Billings. Honestly, if they kill Billings, I'm going to be... Billings is the only character I want to live in this show, in the entire show. Him, maybe Doc Daddy, and Solo. I could care less. Well, I'm on the fence with Juliet. Anyways, so Billings is like, hey, Walker told me you guys were framed, swear on the pact. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll swear on the pact. And he's like, got it, that's all I need. And calls Bernard, and he's like, guess what, Bernard? I've got him, but I'm not telling you. Nah, you can't find us. And Bernard's like, you're in mechanical. Like, I can hear the turbine going in the background. But he sides with the law because Billings is a man of the law.
Yeah, maybe think of Judge Dredd. I am the law. But Billings is doing kind of what Camille was doing earlier when she was kind of in the spin room and like spinning her conversation about why she did the things that she did, which I appreciated. But both of them specifically mentioning they're just following the law, following the pact.
Following the law.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernard's like, I just lost my sheriff. And he looks into the camera, and then he's like, turn off all the radios. I was like, how do you turn off all the radios in the silo? I guess the transmitters maybe you do, the relays. Anyways, it doesn't matter. They're not
Video
gonna be
killed
able
the
to
radio star.
communicate. Yep, that's exactly right. Thanks a lot, MTV. We find out that Billings believing in the law and lying to Bernard cures illnesses. Tom, have you ever seen this before?
I do, yeah. The way the wife makes it sound, or Catherine here, is like, yes, because you're doing the right thing, you're good. But she mentions multiple times you're not taking your herbs. So I'm immediately thinking, oh, the herbs were maybe provided to him from somebody, and they were trying to give him the syndrome.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like him getting off of those is the reason he doesn't have the syndrome.
When she was like, hey, hand me that water, and he holds it out, I wanted her to slap it out of his hand and be like, you've been lying this whole time. You don't have a shaky hand. I just, and that baby is fast asleep in her arms while she slaps the water away, of course. Okay. Lucas and Bernard, the master code breakers. These are the guys that solved the Enigma machine in World War II.
Take that, Turing. Man, Bernard's delivery of the line, it's gobbledygook. I paused and had to laugh openly for a good 30 seconds. Like, why does he need to say this line? I love the word gobbledygook as much as the next person, but this did not fit at all in this sequence.
This is certainly slang born of the silo, gobbledygook, something that is common use. I agree with you. I clocked it right away, simply because you and I have used gobbledygook between and Tim Robbins. Here's what happened. Tim Robbins was looking at the script while they were filming, and he's like, "This is gobbledygook," and the director's like, "Yes, let's use that."
Use it. Maybe it's a code for us. Maybe we need to decode the gobbledygooks.
Yeah, well, if you move the letters over one
it's googledy gob.
Anyways, all right. They say Salvador Quinn so much as if trying to indoctrinate us with the fact that Salvador Quinn, the name, means something to us. And I know he was married to the medicine woman, but Judge Meadows was the first time we heard Salvador Quinn. We get this offline.
She does mention that he was the former head of IT, right? And I don't know if we clocked that last time. So he was, I guess, the former Bernard. Was Bernard Salvador's shadow?
Well, they said 140 years. So unless Bernard's just been really drinking his greens and, I don't know, doing his gobbledygook, I don't know if he's living 140 years.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
It just felt like I would bet money that Salvador Quinn's name was never mentioned in season 1, and this was like a weird.
It's funny you say that. So, I think I did see something on the internet when not Juliet's character, but who was Rashida Jones in the first episode, and she was kind of doing her investigating and trying to figure out what was kind of going on. I think you can look at her notepad at some point and you can see the words Quinn crossed off. And then potentially I think the word code also crossed off. So I don't know, she might have been onto something, but it's again, the show could have done a lot more than that. That is not really an Easter egg. That's just something they might have thrown. I mean, I don't know. That's
sure.
It's not, doesn't pay off well enough for that to be a mention in season 1.
Right. They're having trouble with Dr. Quinn's code. And so rather than just saying it's a difficult code, Bernard's it's a code within a code. And I was like,
Conception.
No. Yeah, I don't. Conception. So dumb. So dumb. Is this where we name Christopher Nolan movies? I'm ready. The Dark Knight Rises. Memento.
Name them all but Inception.
Inception. Interstellar. Okay.
Well, Lucas wins the lottery here, right? If I guess
one
Bernard
day in the
realizes,
mines, and now he's Bernard's shadow.
I need you. You can crack codes, so boom, you're my shadow. And he makes mention you need the legacy. So legacy, assuming, is some book, some new set of rules, something that he needs to have access to help crack this code.
So we have the pact. We have the order. Now we have the legacy. It's who's naming these things, and how many other sacred books do we need to swear on before we get to the end of it? Just have an Old Testament and a New Testament, like a normal book. Come on. All right. Doc Daddy visits Walker. Forgive me. I love Doc Daddy as well. Did I mention that when I said I only want Billings to live, I also want Doc Daddy to live?
Of course.
I just love Ian Glenn. She's like, if you're a friend, come in. If not, go to hell. And he's like, I hope you consider me a friend. Just the way he walks in and says that. I'm like, Doc Daddy, my Doc.
He's great at being a friend. That's what he did with Daenerys in Game of Thrones.
That's true, and it worked
out
for him.
He was friend-zoned.
Yep. He's like, I heard you taped my daughter's suit so that she could survive. And Walker's like, yes, I didn't want her to die on that hill in front of us. And ultimately we find out that the doc is trying to find some truth in whether or not Juliet is alive. And we find out here that Walker actually does not think she's alive, which is different from what she's said to other people. So,
well, do you think she's just trying to not give him false hope and just trying to say, maybe she does think he's alive or she's alive, but doesn't want to give him, because she doesn't know, that false hope that he could hold on to?
Seems like a strong I don't know would be available then, Tom, because at one point when they're doing the revolution stuff, Walker's like, I'm pretty sure she says she thinks Juliet's alive. She says it to Shirley. And so, I mean, is Walker a liar? Yes. Could she have just said, I don't know? Sure. I see what you mean in terms of not giving him hope, but the truth is she doesn't know. She doesn't know how long she would survive in that suit. Yeah. So a strong I don't know is how I like to live my life, Tom. And
you've heard it many a time on this podcast. Yes. It should be our slogan. We don't know.
Exactly. Who shot who? Who shot Kennedy? Who shot? We don't even remember that character's name. That's how little he mattered to us. His name is Cooper. Anyways, okay. We are contractually obligated to talk about the other silo. Solo and Juliet. Juliet wakes up from a nap. Turns out she had an infection. Solo made antibiotics. What?
I was like, turns out she had an infection. Yeah, I think we got that in the last episode.
Yeah, she was bit by a zombie. That's how much they They let us know. He made antibiotics. Tom,
Oh,
talk us
man.
through the process of making your own antibiotics.
Listen, I was going to ask you. I know your mother is a fan of making her own penicillin,
She is
so
a pharmaceutical amateur. Yes, she likes to leave bread out so it gets mold and then gives it to someone to... I'm sure the pharmacist she handed it to threw it in the trash right away. I thought the same thing. In terms of, he just let bread mold and then gave her some mold. So the conflict here is he's holding the suit until she fixes the pump so that the water goes down so that he can stay in his solo cave, right?
yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I don't blame Solo here. Like, he's using leverage to be able to stay alive and stay in his silo, right?
Yeah,
Or do you think he's just crazy and like just doing harm to her for the sake of his own survival?
No, I think he has saved her enough times and done her some good turns that she should not right away be like, no, I'm not going to help you with the pump. I understand she's had some poor scuba diving experiences in this silo, but she should at least hear out what this guy needs. I mean, the pressure here is she thinks that her silo is very quickly going to, revolt and people are going to die.
Which it is.
Which, sure, but
She doesn't know that.
Sola's very nice, and we can at least be like, okay, I'll look at the pump for you, and just be like, go underwater, make a really long line, tie a giant rock to it, throw it to the bottom of the silo, and then be surprised when you drown. That's ultimately my advice to Juliet. Anyways, I'm enjoying talking through it. This episode was the 6th episode of a 10-episode season. I feel the same about this one as I did about 5. To your point, we're kind of treading water a little bit in order to justify the episodes. And I'm looking forward to some answers. I'm looking forward to next episode being probably mainly Solo and Juliet, I would think, right?
I think the next episode, you talk about treading water. I think the next episode is called The Dive. So I'm quite certain we're going to get Juliet doing a dive.
It's going to be Knox in a boxing match where he's in with the sharks and he's got to take a dive in order to get out. So
what a twist.
What a twist. All right. For those of you that are with us, we appreciate you. We hope you enjoy your time this holiday season. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com if you have thoughts, questions. We don't care about things we got wrong. We truly don't. We get a lot of them wrong. It's how we live our lives. On Spotify, I think you can join us. You can comment there. We like to hear from people. Tom, I'm running out of steam. What did I miss?
You're good, my man. Twitter's, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. Follow us on all the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast. If you like us, rate and review us. We'd appreciate it. And it is important to note here, I think this week we got a fun and nice revelation of the series is going to be picked up for 2 more seasons, and it's going to end at season 4. So it's kind of nice to know we have the full green light. It seems to be a rarity nowadays for shows to actually get the green light, but Apple gave them 2 more seasons, so we're going to finish the whole book series and get a full completed show.
Great. Well, I think you're going to have a fun time solo potting on seasons 3 and 4. I look forward to listening to you, Tom. For Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I have been Tom. Till next week, everybody.